Oh,
All right, everybody. We are back again with a weekly double feature, and we are joined here today with Nick and Cody and my lovely wife, Lindsay, who is the
hello.
floating
Hello.
voice off to the side. How are you guys doing this week?
Well, school started, so
Ah,
yeah, we're just wrapping up our first week, and oh my God, it feels like three. I was just telling Cody about not even half an hour ago that one of the classes that I assist in has 40 kids.
wow. So I
Yeah,
can now the the closest I've ever come to dealing with that many children were the 5 or 6 years that I drove a school bus.
yeah,
Um, I was in no way a teacher, but just handling that many kids is a chore, and I applaud you, Nick.
yeah. Yeah, it's like the man said, it's not a job, it's an adventure.
Right. well, Cody, sir, I can kind of hear that you're munching.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
sorry.
No, no, no. You're good. You're totally good. This is a totally munch zone, so if you need to, go ahead and eat. Uh,
Yeah,
but
I had
how has your week been?
I'm doing all right. It's been rather busy, but things have been calming down this week, so that's
Well,
good.
well, good.
Uh, Um, I wish the weather would stay what the temperature was when I woke up this morning, but it's still August in Texas, so but at least
well,
we're having nice mornings right now.
actually, it was kind of funny. The last couple of days, it was in the 90s, and it actually felt good.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. The last 2 days, it's been mid 90s, and I know that's still hot, but there was hardly any moisture, and it really it felt like springtime weather. I mean, it was cool at night and in the morning, and it
Yeah,
was like two totally different days of waking up, and then here we are back to 100 plus 104 today, and throughout the foreseeable future anyway.
no end in sight.
Yeah,
Just like the heat in these two movies we're talking about.
Yeah, actually, I believe
yes,
that was the heat was your inspiration for wanting to discuss these movies. For those of you who don't pay attention to titles, we will be discussing the first two Predator movies.
yes, and heat is a major factor, and they play it up in the second movie, which we'll be getting into. But in the first movie, you don't really need to because they're in the tropics. They're in a jungle setting,
Oh yeah,
South America, and it's already hot. But in the second movie, like I said, they really play up the fact that
it.
it's a massive heat wave. You know,
Oh yeah, they
it's
were saying it's like it's 108 degrees in the beginning of the movie. It's like it's
right.
like it's like wow, I can actually relate in the far off year of 1997.
Yeah.
future future of 1987. I love the Astro vans and stuff that they were using for police cars.
Oh yeah.
And that's
Okay.
another thing. They were so hot, but they were wearing like suit jackets and stuff.
Suit jackets and tactical gear,
Yeah, it's just
but
oh
but
well.
unlike some other people who wear tactical gear, theirs was actually practical.
Yes.
Bum bum.
Yeah. Yeah, I went there. So,
Well,
OG
so
Predator. Would you
yeah, let's
consider
start off.
this? Would you consider this a man's movie?
this might be the most masculine, testosterone-filled film that's ever been put on cinema. I
Yeah.
mean, how many men in this movie have bulging muscles? Everybody but Shane Black and
Oh,
the
yeah.
interpreter guy. And
Uh,
even the interpreter guy's, he's just smaller compared to Arnold, Carl Weathers, Jesse Ventura.
Jesse
Yeah.
the Body Ventura.
And
And
what
the
was his?
woman. Actually,
Yeah.
she seems pretty wiry, too.
They actually had one of them actually had to have a bodyguard on set, and it wasn't to protect him. It was because of the way he was, and I can't remember the dude's name. It was Billy.
Is it Bill Duke? I figured it was Sonny Landham, probably the guy that played
Sonny.
Billy.
Yeah, Sonny. Yeah, it was Sonny, who apparently was a character in real life. And
Okay. Like, explain this for some people who might not be in the know, i.e., me.
I don't know too much into it. I just know that he was a very rowdy gentleman, and apparently he had to have someone on set, like a bodyguard on set, to protect other actors, I guess. I mean,
Basically, they had to have someone to keep him in check.
yeah, like, don't start none of your bullshit,
Yeah.
type of stuff. But
Ugh.
sorry.
Yeah.
How many of you have seen? It's like, well, of course, since it's Predator, and Cody, you were talking about memes earlier, and I remember this one YouTube video where it's like, Dylan, you son of a bitch, and it's like they high five, handshake so hard that it triggers a nuke.
Yeah, that I mean, the meme of them like meeting their hands with their muscles and like that's memed forever. So
It just turns into an arm wrestling match.
so I have Letterboxd, and when I log this, sometimes I like to read the reviews people write because some people write silly reviews. So here's one of Predator that this guy who's a critic, and he wrote a book on Spider-Man, and now is writing a book on Siskel and Ebert. This is his review of Predator. Me taking my family to the mall the day after Christmas. We move 5 meters spread, no sound. Me when I go to the trip when the trip to the in-laws goes badly. So you cooked up a story and dropped the 6 of us in a meat grinder. me to my daughter when she says she's too sick for school, then spends the whole day bouncing in the bed and screaming, "You set us up! It was bullshit! All of it!"
Nice.
Yeah.
My best friend and I, we started doing this in high school, but every time we see each other or we take off, like we're done visiting or whatever, we'll do the handshake, and we'll, flex what little muscle I have, and then do the, we'll say Thai business, and that we have done that every time we see each other since high school. And you're right. This movie just left a lasting impression of I don't know, man. It gave us so many one-liners. It gave us so many memes. It is so great.
Get to the chopper!
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like,
and
you're bleeding a little. I ain't got time to bleed.
Yeah, you don't do the "you son of a bitch."
Yeah.
But this also, because John McTiernan, who directed this, he only had one other film under his belt before this. He went on to be like one of the best action directors. He directed Die Hard and Hunt for the Red October right after this, like back to back.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I knew he did Die Hard, but I've never seen Hunt for Red October.
Oh, you should. That's a good submarine movie.
It's not my personal favorite Jack Ryan movie, but I think most people consider that the best of the Jack Ryan movies.
Okay, not your favorite, but a lot of people. Well, that I kind of feel that way about Predator 2. It's my personal favorite, but yeah, everybody seems to prefer the first one.
But I mean, I do like the concept of this movie is we're going to pit the world's strongest, biggest man against the ultimate killing machine, right? Arnold versus the Predator. It's
Yeah,
basically what this movie becomes.
actually, I remember people saying that. Oh, it's like, how many of you have read a short story called "The Most Dangerous Game" in like middle school or high school?
Yeah.
That
Yeah, and
sounds familiar.
Well,
basically, a guy gets uh, sent to a tropical island this rich guy owns, and the rich guy hunts him down for sport.
Oh,
And
so kind of like a surviving the game, which also has Gary Busey in it.
yep.
yeah, but people have been saying that they've been trying to get a movie made from this for the longest time, and people say they already made a movie of the most dangerous game. It's just called Predator.
If it bleeds, we
We
can
can
kill
kill
it.
it.
I remember I was probably, man, how old was I when I watched? I was probably like 9 when I watched
Oh,
this. When my dad rented it, and I remember we watched it, and the next day I was like, "Hey, I want to watch Predator before it goes back. We got to take it back to the video store." And my mom was like, "I don't think so. That was not a good movie." I was like, "Are you kidding? We sat there and watched the whole thing last night. It was pretty freaking awesome to me." But I thought it
Oh,
was great.
actually, I think I watched it on HBO. Um,
nice.
when it came, yeah. Actually, that's how I first saw Predator 2 because that was run all the time on HBO, and I ended up recording it. But I remember first seeing the Predator take off his mask for the first time, and like I always thought that you know, not showing the bad guy's face was kind of a. I took it as a shorthand as it's like this guy is super disfigured. I think I just got that from like Doctor Doom
Mm-hmm.
characters like Doctor Doom, and when I saw the Predator's face, and yeah, it's like that was what I was expecting. An ugly motherfucker.
Right.
Yes. But I mean, this heat makes you want to lather up in mud like Arnold did to camouflage himself.
Ugh.
I don't know if you guys saw the what the original Predator looked like, but man, was it hokey! Like
Was
a big,
that?
it was Jean Claude Van Damme's foam suit that
Mm-hmm.
they had him in, and it looked like a mantis. It looked like a praying mantis almost, and with these
Really?
weird arms and this hunched over head. It was really weird looking. Like it honestly, it did not work, and I'm so glad that he threw a fit. Like he was just so unhappy about
Yeah,
being
wasn't he having problems like performing in the suit, like it was too hot and like other things?
yeah, and I think a little bit of ego in there too. That
Also, I wonder how physically intimidating he would have came off up against Arnold, because the guy they did cast, I think his name was Kevin Peter Hall, was like,
Kevin? Yeah, it
wasn't he
was.
like 7 feet tall or something?
Yes. Actually, I'm looking at this, and no, it was. Yeah, the
it was
fact that
weird,
they
wasn't it?
went back to the drawing board is yeah, that was one of those times when it was necessary because that is you
It
look at
just doesn't
that
look
look
like it would work.
that looks like something out of a Sci-Fi Channel original movie.
Yeah, that's a
Then
good way of putting it.
yeah, I think it's like Van Damme quitting and casting Van Damme quitting, casting a relative unknown, and just redesigning the whole thing. Those were all changes for the better. But
Absolutely.
Kevin Peter Hall actually he was the actor for both Predator movies.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He's also the helicopter pilot, one of the helicopter pilots at the end of the movie.
Yeah, and actually his height was 7'2".
Dang. Yeah, he definitely looked like a giant compared to Arnold, even though Arnold is huge. Arnold isn't even 6 feet tall, I think.
Which probably made the um, probably made it more look more intimidating because we always think of Arnold as such a big guy.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's what I
But
like to call the John Wayne effect, where you know he looks way bigger than he actually is. I'm not saying muscle wise, but height wise, because John Wayne was a tiny dude, and
Was he?
he had really small feet, but on the screen, you know, he's walking tall.
You want to know a funny thing about actors and appearing how tall or short they are on screen? It's a sidebar, and I apologize, but
yeah,
it just reminded me. So when they were filming The Magnificent Seven, Yul Brynner did not want to appear shorter, or he wanted to look taller than Steve McQueen, right?
Uh,
Because Steve McQueen was the co-star and Yul Brynner was the star.
yeah.
And so they would have Yul Brynner stand on this mound of dirt so he would look taller. And they said when they weren't filming, Steve McQueen would like kick at the dirt and stuff, like
Oh,
to mess with him.
wow, that's
but
great.
yeah, Kevin Peter Hall was also Harry in Harry and the Hendersons,
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
and
Is that
he
isn't that the same year as Predator?
I think I want to say it was a year earlier. Let me.
Okay,
But he was also on an episode of Star Trek TNG.
Ah,
nice.
Unfortunately, he passed away in 1991 from
Hmm.
AIDS complications.
Yeah,
hmm.
from a blood transfusion.
Yeah, one of the many reasons why they um, screen for blood transfusions as well. Holy cow! Apparently, he was the alien. He was the xenomorph.
What was he an alien too? I
Yeah.
thought he was, but I thought it was another gentleman, like a French.
Yeah, in the original Alien, it was a Frenchman.
Okay. I
He was
didn't.
like a French model or something.
The
Let's see here.
Okay, I thought it turns out yeah that is another dude, but
But Chris, you're talking about when you first saw this. I saw this on cable TV. They did
Uh,
Predator one night, and then they did Predator 2 the next night. I was in junior high. I had already seen the Alien movies, so and I knew about like I think there was a comic book or a video game I saw where it was like Alien versus Predator, and I'm like, what are the Predators? And then I saw it was on TV and watched it and thought it was like, well, this is the coolest movie ever.
yeah.
okay, like let we'll get to that in a second. But I'm reading about Kevin Peter Hall right now, and apparently he was in the running for both Data and Geordie LaForge.
Oh wow,
Huh.
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Huh.
So, but he just ended up getting guest spots instead.
Well, I know. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I was thinking of something and I I lost it. I lost my
Yeah.
train of thought. Oh, the second Predator, Predator 2. I caught that on TV before I watched it, before I rented it, and I'd always known about it because I like in the back of my old comics, I always had a Predator 2 ad. It was like coming to town for a few days to kill or something
Oh
like that.
that was the movie's tagline. Like
Yeah,
he's in
and
town
then
for a few days to kill.
he's like standing up on the ledge of that building, and I was like, okay, this is awesome. And I remember watching it on like TBS or TNT, and
Yep.
I noticed all of the language and stuff that they were having to dub over, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna watch it, but this needs to be a rental because I mean they're leaving out so much, and
Hmm.
it's no what gore, like what action scenes they left out, and
Actually,
so yeah, I remember watching it on TV, and then not long after that, I went and rented it. I was like, this has to be a video rental.
see, my mom, Danny Glover was one of her favorite actors, and but she hated him in Predator 2 because, as she said, he cusses his way up through the whole movie.
Yeah.
Um, Go ahead, Chris.
Oh no! I loved him in Predator. That's one of the things I love about Predator 2 is it's not a bunch of Arnolds
Oh
running
yeah,
around, shredded, and I mean they're just like normal Joe Blow cops,
oh yeah,
and that's one of the interesting aspects of the second one that I enjoy was that. But I liked old Danny Glover in this second one.
oh yeah. Danny
Sorry,
Glover.
we're jumping ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, we kind of
Yeah.
are, but we tend to think of Predator as just, man, what's the word I'm looking for? It's just this whole mythology, because around the time, yeah, where Dark Horse was making a whole lot of Predator comics.
Hmm.
But
So, interesting thing talking about building mythology, and both of these movies have a scene that I thought there was more to it than there is in the actual movie. And even Dan Trachtenberg, the director of Prey, talks about this, especially with the first one, because he talks about when it came out, he was too young to see it, and people talking about what happened in the movie, like the older kids. I could have swore the first time I saw this movie, I thought like the Billy and the Predator had like a big showdown on like that log bridge or whatever, and you don't see anything. You just see him like taking his vest off and throwing his gun, and then they cut to the rest of the guys running away, and you hear screaming.
Yeah, but honestly, I think that's a lot of that is for the movie's benefit.
Oh,
Because
I'm not disagreeing. It's just in my mind as a kid, I could have sworn they like battled it out or something.
yeah, that's because I've thought about that too, and I've always thought of it just being for just as a build up. Like you don't see it in action until it gets to Arnold. Like Arnold, it's reserved for Arnold. He's
Yeah, he's the star of the movie. He's the
yeah,
one that's got to fight the thing.
right. Like he is the most muscled out of those other men. Like he's the lone survivor besides the woman that they're with,
uh-huh.
and but it makes sense because the woman he left her alone because she didn't have a weapon, right?
Yeah, that
Well, that's
was
why Arnold kicks the gun out of her hand or whatever, because Arnold picks up that like he's not messing with what they're like. Why didn't he kill her when he kills Shane Black and I forget someone else it kills, and he's like, because she wasn't armed, so it's not a challenge.
Yeah, actually, I think that kind of goes back to the subway scene in Predator 2 because they
Mm-hmm.
mention they mention it goes that he went after a bunch of commuters and he says they were all armed.
Right.
Yeah, that subway train was like Texas, man, and
Oh,
they were definitely playing on that whole vigilante thing in the 80s where that guy killed the muggers on, was it the subway?
yeah. I don't know. I
Like,
don't think he killed them, but he definitely shot them.
mm-hmm. But yeah, I did want to mention Shane Black, who is a screenwriter and director. We've covered a few of his movies. Is in this movie, the first Predator, and I believe he was also a script doctor on the script.
Yeah,
Like
it's like what?
like he did some touch ups on it.
Yeah, I think he was actually trying to break into Hollywood as an actor, but he found that his strength was writing. And of course, yeah, later on that year, Lethal Weapon was his big payday
Mm-hmm.
because I think he did Monster Squad beforehand, and then
Yeah.
and that was, I guess, a modest movie hit, but yeah, Lethal Weapon was kind of what catapulted his career.
Yeah, he's friends with the director of Monster Squad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fred Decker, I believe is his name. Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
and then Bill Duke, who's in this movie, went on to be a director and directed a really cool movie called Deep Cover, which stars Lawrence
Yes.
Fishburne and
Yes,
Jeff
I remember
Goldblum.
that one. Yeah, the song from the soundtrack that was
Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg.
yeah, that was Snoop Dogg's debut.
Oh, was it? Oh, wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nice.
because it was right around the time when NWA was splitting up and everybody was doing their own thing. But yeah, that I remember. I remember watching Deep Cover. My mom is one of the one of those old school types. Like if there is a black lead actor, she has to watch it.
Well, I mean, I understand that, especially back in the 80s and 90s. That was
Oh
slim
yeah,
pickings a lot of times, especially for mainstream Hollywood movies.
yep.
Right.
Yeah, Cosby was definitely one of her rewatches, or one of her loyal watches.
Ah,
But yeah, um, and oh, also I think that was another movie that came out that year with Arnold and Jesse the Body Ventura.
The Running Man, yeah.
Yes.
Which Arnold is the star of two source materials that are originally supposed to be not men that look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, but they
Oh yeah.
changed the movie because The Running Man is based off a Richard Bachman story, which is
Stephen
Stephen King.
King. Yeah.
And Total Recall, if you read those stories, the lead character is nothing like what Arnold is
Yeah.
as a human.
I read the running. I also read the short story that you can't. You could. It's the short story that Total Recall is based off. It's called "We Can Remember It for You Wholesale."
Yeah.
Yeah, the main character's name was Quail and not Quaid. Like they changed it to Quaid because Dan Quayle was the president, and they didn't want to make a movie about a guy named Quail who's having memory problems.
Yeah.
But but yeah, I think, and of course, yeah, the Running Man is barely an in name only. Is just barely outside of an in name only adaptation, but I don't think they will ever make a book accurate version of that story because the lead character Ben Richards hijacks a plane and flies it into a building. That's how the book ends.
Mm-hmm.
I s-
I know there's development of a remake with Edgar Wright attached. I don't know like what's gonna happen with that though.
okay. I'm okay. I am diverged because I always said this. If they ever remade The Running Man, cast either Wayne Brady or Drew Carey as Killian.
Is that the host?
That's the game show host.
I mean, that would make sense. I mean, they cast Richard Dawson in the old one.
Yeah, that was a yeah, but I can actually see either one of those people just being this asshole diva of a game show host.
Huh.
But I digressed. Back to Predator.
Yeah.
Well,
What else do you guys have to say about the original Predator?
I
Really, it's
Who was older than the first time his body had been submerged in water. And I'll argue that science that blood was crusty and dry. Second.
yeah, Lindsay has a pretty good theory. Come here. Did y'all hear that?
I heard a
barely.
little bit. Yeah, only a little bit.
Okay, when Arnold, he's like face to face, right, with the predator, and its armor is glitching, and it just walks right past him, and he's like, "Oh, it must be the mud. I've got to cover my body in mud." No, it's because your whole, I don't know how many pounds worth of muscle was just submerged in a large body of water that's automatically going to be cooler. And then the second time when he's trying to set up the scout booby trap thing, he gets spotted and his mud's all dried out. I don't think the mud is what's keeping him invisible so much as the fact that he fell into that water. And it's
It
bad
lowered
science.
his core.
It lowered his body temperature. Yeah.
Yeah, but the theory was sound. Block the heat and he's blind.
Yeah, but he looks plenty hot and sweaty for that final showdown.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
I
well,
like it. I like it as an introduction to the alien, to the predator. Like I used to think it was like number one, but I think over the years, the more I watch them, and the more I appreciate Predator 2.
Hmm.
Like, and again, because it's so different, and it's not in a jungle setting, it's in a
yes.
city.
Yeah.
It is, they're dealing with regular people. I say regular people, but not muscled up special forces. These are
These
men
are
and women,
cops.
cops.
Yeah, I mean they're not muscled up, but they can definitely hold their own in a firefight.
No,
Yeah.
they can hold their own, but they're not all flashy and showy like, walking around shirtless in the jungle like, Arnold and his crew were. These are just, again, it's Danny Glover. It's
Yeah.
Danny Glover, and you have the great Bill Paxton in there.
Yes, Bill Paxton making
you've
that
got
movie
your-
monster Triple Crown.
Yep.
Yes.
He's been killed by a Terminator, a Xenomorph, and a Predator.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think the more that I watch it, the more I think I really appreciate it. As an entry, it's because
So, you guys have an interesting point and a view here, Chris. But did you know originally this was going to be more of a direct sequel with Arnold teaming up with the police guy, and it was originally going to be Patrick Swayze in the lead role, and they almost went with Steven Seagal, but he had such crazy ideas. They were like, no, thank you. He wanted to be a psychiatrist for the CIA who was a martial arts expert. And they were like, I don't think so. And they're like, Joel Silver and the writers were like, well, why don't we just make it an average Joe common man that fights the Predator? And so Joel Silver brought in Danny Glover, Gary Busey, and the guy who plays the chief in Lethal Weapon because he's the SWAT team leader.
Yeah.
And this was especially after Arnold decided not to do the sequel.
I'm glad
So-
that they didn't. I mean, who knows how it would have turned out? I mean, it sounds pretty interesting to see Arnold in another or a direct sequel. But again, this gave. I don't know. I thought it was really cool. I'm still hung up on the Danny Glover part, like, because when you think action, when you think Danny Glover, other than Lethal Weapon, like what other action-y movies has he done?
You don't think of action movies. You think of him because he's a dramatic actor.
Well,
Right.
he was in Witness. He was one of the bad guys.
Yeah, he's one of the bad guys in Witness. He's in The Color Purple.
Yeah, he's actually played some villainous roles before before Lethal Weapon.
He was in Bat 21. I don't know if you guys have seen that with Gene.
Oh yeah, Gene Hackman.
Yeah. So yeah,
Isn't there part of you that feels like this is like a Lethal Weapon crossover because it's Danny Glover?
Yeah. A little
get
bit,
to
yeah.
this shit. Yeah.
That's all he had to say, and I'd have been like, "Oh, poor Murtaugh. He's got to deal with the Predator."
I remember there was a scene right at the beginning where he was looking at weapons, and he pulls out a Glock and it says "too small."
Yeah.
I think that was kind of a jab at Murtaugh's carrying a 6-shooter.
Oh yeah, because.
And then
Well,
he
this
just
goes-
pulls out
this
a
also
shotgun.
This also goes back to seeing a black man in a lead role fighting an alien, like in a sci-fi movie or sci-fi / horror, I guess, however they marketed it. But you know, like Cody was saying, other than like Lethal, I mean, you had other movies and stuff, but for this genre, it felt different or it felt new.
Yeah. And also, one of the things I liked more about Predator 2 than the original is the Predator had more gadgets.
Yeah, and he's kind of a vigilante in this movie. He's kind of helping the city of Los Angeles.
Oh, yeah. Of course, everybody thought that, or yeah, it's like Los Angeles in 1997 would be a total crime-ridden shithole. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, I think it's again just story wise, and you're right about the gadgets, and I don't want to skip to the end, but you know, you were talking about the whole Aliens versus Predator. You had the video game. You had an old video game.
Yes.
You had comics. You had a toy line, which I had some of the toys.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. So this movie teases us, and we had to wait nearly 15 years before they finally made a movie.
Yeah. See, that I was talking with Cody about this before we started recording, because you know, we see the xenomorph skull on the Predator ship. We thought, oh my god, that is so cool. And like, originally it was just supposed to be like a throwaway side gag. It's just kind of like a Easter egg. But then they thought, you know what? We do own the right. We do own the rights
Fox
to
has
Alien
both
and Predator. We should do a crossover movie, and they made Aliens vs. Predator comic books, Aliens vs. Predator toy lines, video games, like all kinds of stuff. And there have been so many drafts of so many scripts that have gone on. But honestly, like I said, Aliens vs. Predator came out a good decade after I stopped caring.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally get it. And yeah, it was a little too late, but it was cool seeing that, especially me not being around to see these movies spaced apart, kind of
Yeah.
seeing them in succession. It was really cool.
Right.
Well, eventually I'll actually, give enough of a damn to see it. Alien vs. Predator, I mean, but
It's
I'm,
okay.
I'm
It's
not.
They're
not
okay. It's
okay. It's
it's
not great, but it is. I will call it a straight up popcorn movie. And like, if you want to see, there are some cool scenes at them with them going at it, like fighting each other and stuff like that. But the plot itself is not all that great.
Well, yeah, I didn't think they have to really depend on plot because that's not what we. A deep story is not what people come to see when they think of Aliens
Well,
versus Predator.
yeah. I mean, there are still some things though that were just, I'm not really cringe, but didn't make sense. Even for that. And you're right. You're not, when you go for those movies, you're not really watching it for a deep plot, but there are some instances where it matters, and yeah, but
so
it's all right.
so this movie also, I talked about there's a scene I thought there was more to it. It's the King Willie scene. I thought that scene when I saw it as a kid, like they had a fight. Nope. Just showing
No,
you how BA the Predator is.
yeah. Oh, and the not Robert, but Morton Downey Jr. as the
It's
sleazy.
basically playing himself.
Yeah, for those of you who are too young to remember, Morton Downey Jr. was basically Jerry Springer version 1.0.
Yep.
Like he did all of the. He was one of the fathers of trash talk.
But this movie does feature 80s action alum Robert Davi
Oh
as,
yeah,
I guess he's some sort of like
oh yeah, he's the
police
chief.
chief or something.
Yeah, he's the
Yeah.
chief. Okay, I am looking at just video games of Alien versus Predator. First, there was the Aliens game. It was for the arcade in 1990,
Mm-hmm.
and then Alien versus Predator in 1993. One one for the Super Nintendo, one for the
Yep.
Game Boy,
I played the Super Nintendo one.
and then Alien versus Predator, the FPS game by Atari. That was in
Wow.
1994.
I had one for PC, and it must
Oh,
have been
cool.
late. It was Aliens versus Predator 2 on the PC, and it barely ran it, but it ran it enough to play.
And
And I remember that one. And then I had Aliens versus Predator for the 360, I think, that came out.
yeah,
I think there was a game for Alien 3, and people tell me when you died in it, it would say, "Game over, man! Game over!"
Uh,
okay, so yeah, Alien vs. Predator came out in 2004, but
Mm-hmm.
there were at least three different Alien vs. Predator games in the 90s.
Not to mention the whole comic line.
Oh yeah, actually, my favorite Predator comic was Batman vs. Predator.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure they did, because I think this was like in the late 90s or mid 90s. I think they also did like Batman versus Aliens, or they did Superman versus Aliens
They
or
did do
something.
they did do both.
Superman.
Yeah,
Oh,
maybe that's what it was. Superman versus the Aliens and Batman versus the Predator.
yeah.
I remember all these team ups, but I wanted a Terminator versus RoboCop.
RoboCop. Yeah, I
Oh,
think
I think they only made the comic book for that one. And
Mm-hmm.
it
Yeah,
was one
yeah,
of
I
those.
had the moment.
Yeah, it was one of those brief periods when Frank Miller was properly medicated.
Yeah,
um, Easter egg I was sharing with Nick earlier, and Shane Black's the Predator. Jake Busey's character, I think, is also named Keys, as is Gary Busey's character in this movie.
okay.
So it's like a little nod to Predator 2, even though this sequel is very underrated. It does, for whatever reason, was not well received when it came out, and I think didn't get as good as reviews as the first one, and I guess had a reputation as not as good as the first movie.
Yeah, that's kind of the problem with every other Predator movie since Predator, including Predator 2.
Yeah. Which is funny with us discussing these movies tonight. They just announced Prey is getting a Blu-ray 4K release, even though it was a streaming movie.
Oh yeah, Prey. Prey was actually really good.
Yeah, Prey was great.
Oh, Prey's amazing. It might be my favorite Predator movie now.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where the Predator is, I wouldn't say it's. I think the best match for Predator is someone who would be an underdog, uh, it's like Danny Glover. Like it only worked with the huge muscly man in Arnold Schwarzenegger for the first one.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's why Prey is so good too, because it's a protagonist that you wouldn't think could go toe to toe with the Predator. Because I think you're right, Nick. I think that only works one time. Where like we've seen it. We've seen like the biggest man alive fight the monster. We don't need to see it again.
Yeah.
That's also something we've kind of phased out of, unless it's a superhero movie. And I read an article on this. It's pretty interesting about how the male protagonist has changed over the years, like from the 80s into the 90s and then into the 2000s, as they've gone from muscle men, jacked muscle men like Arnold, to your everyday man like
John McClane.
Well,
Yeah.
see, here's the interesting thing. When the first Expendables movie came out, they interviewed Stallone. And they asked Stallone, like, what happened to that era of the action movie? And he says it was Batman's fault because it was a guy in a suited up suit. But honestly, I think it was Die Hard because of, Die Hard, John McClane is an average guy. He's not Arnold Schwarzenegger or Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah, it was a welcome change of pace. And not only, I think another movie that really changed the action game was The Matrix.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
But I mean,
it changed the game in more ways than one, but definitely on how we see action heroes and action movies in general.
but if you want to talk about Keanu as an action star, Speed crawled so the Matrix could run. As far as seeing Keanu as that kind of guy.
Well, yeah, actually, Speed, when you watch it, it's still a legitimately good movie.
Yeah, it's a great action movie with like a gonzo performance by Dennis Hopper as the villain.
And Keanu's already done Point Break, which is considered a classic. So he was already on his way to being an action star.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, The Matrix just kind of kicked it over the field goal, as it were.
I think that's what put him into legendary status.
Oh yeah, and then John Wick solidified it. I still need to watch the John Wick movies.
Oh, they're so good.
Yeah,
Especially because it's like hand-to-hand combats, practical stunts, and
yeah, and then Liam Neeson and Taken.
yeah, it was like, hey, an old guy can be an action star.
Yeah, I mean they didn't even need a tagline or in a world full of darkness, Liam Neeson goes fucking crazy. None of that. Just that line from him saying, "If you don't let my daughter go, I will find you and I will kill you."
I have a particular set of skills.
Yeah,
Hey,
it's
I hate to say this. What do you say, hot take? But
yeah,
Taken and The Equalizer have just turned Denzel Washington and Liam Neeson. They've just started remaking the same movie over again, and it's about two old dudes where something happens to their family or somebody gets kidnapped, and then they just go wreak havoc. But
well,
it's like
Yeah.
they're different movies, but it's the same exact storyline.
yeah, there is that. And from what I've been told, John Wick tends to move things forward, as it were.
Yeah,
John Wick's amazing.
But
but I mean the stunts and the direction and the work in that movie is just pure cinema.
Right.
It's on a whole different level than these Liam Neeson, Denzel,
yeah,
which they serve their purpose. I don't like all of them. I wish I liked the Equalizer movies. It seems like something I would like, but like you said, Chris, it's like how many times can you watch the same movie?
yeah, I saw the Equalizer, Denzel's Equalizer, because they remade the show, and Queen Latifah is the
Yeah.
lead in that one. But they're making a third one. I think they made a
Mm-hmm.
third one. It's due out in the next month or so.
It's basically a Man on Fire reunion because Dakota Fanning's in it.
Oh man, I still need to. There are so many action movies that I haven't seen that I need to see. But yeah, I've heard about how good Man on Fire is.
Yeah, Man on Fire was good. I just hate to see, because they're both really talented. I just hate to see them like moving in that direction. I feel like they could offer us more, and I get it. That's
Well,
what they want to do. That's
Well,
fine.
Denzel was just played Macbeth a couple of years ago.
yeah,
True.
Yeah, he's
and
doing other
also
things besides, and he's a producer.
and director. He
Mm-hmm.
directed Fences.
Yeah.
So yeah, there he. I mean, the man has a. I think he's just kind of doing these things for fun. Like he really doesn't need to work
Right.
anymore.
No.
Maybe that's what it is. They're just like, you know what? I don't care if it sounds the same. I'm gonna get paid, and it's something to do. Like I don't have to do it, but it's work.
And baby boomers will eat it up.
Oh yeah,
They will eat it up. They will go to the movies and see it.
oh yeah. Ugh. Um, but but Predator and Predator Two, different. Those are two different action movies, but they are enjoyable for different reasons. And
Yeah.
I really wish it could have got. I think the biggest mistake with at least Predator was waiting too long.
Yeah,
Because
but
they did.
sorry, I was just gonna say, I think because the second one, I guess, didn't do as well as they thought it was going to, or what its budget. I guess that's what halted the Predator franchise for whatever reason for so long.
Yeah, also that and Alien Three's downer ending. Like, they definitely were not planning on making any more.
No, well, at least with Sigourney Weaver, but
But
the
then,
power of money.
Yeah.
oh god, I actually saw Alien Resurrection in the theater, and oh,
Resurrection's not bad. Like it has its
it's
moments.
it's not bad, but let me just put it this way: you can definitely tell it was directed by a French guy.
Yeah,
It,
yeah.
it has a weird '90s science fiction movie feel. Like I know that's exactly what it is. It's a weird '90s science fiction movie, but it has. I don't know if it's because it was it Josh Whedon?
He wrote the screenplay, but Jean-Pierre Jeunet is who they got to direct it, who didn't speak any English, and basically the studio manhandled most of it. But
Yeah,
it's a fun B movie for what it is. Ron Perlman's great, Sigourney Weaver's great, even Winona Ryder's good, and you can see like a little bit of what would become Firefly out of Alien Resurrection.
Right.
uh, I'll have to rewatch it sometimes because I saw it in the theater when I was in high school, and I only saw it that once.
I mean, it's my least favorite of the main 6 Alien films,
Yeah,
but it's kind of trashy fun in my mind.
Right.
I could get behind that. Aliens is still my favorite. It will always be my favorite. I mean, unless they manage to get James Cameron to make another one.
He's stuck in Pandora for the foreseeable future.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's his opus.
and oh yeah, and actually, you know, being a competent submarine diver.
Yep. Um, I w-
Yeah,
I
I had to go there too.
I
Like
don't. I doubt Disney's gonna greenlight it, but I would love for them to let Ridley Scott make one more weirdo religion movie with the aliens in it that he
Yeah.
did with his David stories.
You
oh
saw where he
god,
came out last week, and he was like, I regret not doing. He said if I
Oh,
could go
Blade
back
Runner 2049 instead of Alien Covenant.
yeah,
Yeah.
which I don't know, man. I mean, 2049 was great. Like
Yeah.
it was better than the first movie.
Yeah, I think so too. But I don't hate Alien Covenant. I mean, it's a flawed film, but there's some really cool stuff in it.
Right.
But what else about Predator 2? I mean, there's a bit of comedy in it too, right? Where like the Predator's in that old couple's bathroom,
oh god, yes,
Yeah.
yes. I just as
patching
we
himself up, and
yeah,
he's Danny Glover comes in. He's like, "I'm a cop." She's like, "I don't think he gives a shit."
yeah.
While
Oh,
Jeopardy's playing.
oh, that
Yeah.
is that is well after that there was a whole lot of really ramped up scenes. Like we needed that scene. Like the Predator was just about to detonate, uh, do his self-destructing like in the first movie, and
Mm-hmm.
and he stopped it by basically grabbing his disc weapon and chopping his hand off.
Mm-hmm.
I did like the way he was patching himself up in that bathroom. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Showed his field kit, his med kit, and make weird.
Cauterizing his wounds
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
without, and I'm guessing without any anesthetic.
Yeah, we get to see the Predator ship, which is really cool.
Oh yeah, and that's why I think um, one of the biggest flaws I think with the Predator franchise was trying to strike
And
while the iron is cooled because they left it so open like that. He says where Stephen Baldwin says, "God damn it, we came so close," and Danny Glover just walks away, smiling, says, "Don't worry, asshole, you'll get another chance."
right. And I
Yeah.
don't know if y'all caught it, but it's a nice little nod, and I'm glad that they put it in Prey. But
Yes, the gun.
Yeah, with the gun from the 1700s. Yeah.
It was the Frenchman's gun, the trapper's gun in Prey.
Yeah. So I remember there was a Predator comic that told a different story about that gun. Like
Ah,
Uh,
okay.
yeah. Apparently, the Predator teamed up with uh, this one Spanish guy, and they were fighting off all these pirates.
Huh.
And
I'll have to dig that up.
yeah, it from what I've read, it sounds like a really cool story.
Right.
Also, because of this movie's amped up violence and thinking like cities are just urban crime ridden things, the Predator, he's an advocate for gun control.
I definitely.
Huh.
Well, who needs guns when you got all that shit?
Yeah, but
Yeah,
he made sure no crazy people who shouldn't be carrying guns should be walking around carrying guns. He's like,
you know what?
you're...
Maybe the next Predator movie should take place in Dallas. No, Houston. Have it take place in Houston.
Houston
Because,
in August. Oh,
oh, God, yeah.
oh,
he'd be right at home.
Yeah,
Well,
it was.
I,
Yeah,
I,
but
I really enjoy them. I think they're great. Like I know they're classified as sci-fi, but I mean they're just good action movies. They're good.
yeah. The alien movies tend to be mostly sci-fi horror, except for probably Aliens and Alien Resurrection. But these are definitely sci-fi action movies. And both of you guys make great points of why you prefer Predator 2. But I think the one thing that holds the first Predator up, other than it's the first or it's one of the iconic Arnold movies with, another great line, stick around. But I think John McTiernan is definitely a more accomplished director than Stephen Hopkins, who directed Predator 2. So I think the direction is a little more tighter in the first movie.
that's
Right.
fair.
I can see that.
Yeah,
But Predator 2 is a solid movie. It is definitely better than its reputation has been for 30 years.
Right.
yes.
And I used to be in the opposite camp. I mean, I used to be like, no, that's Predator 1. That's all the way. It's the muscly action movie that it is. But again, I think the more that I rewatch Predator 2, I find the little things that stand out, that make it what it is. And I think it's
Well,
just,
I mean, the meat packing scene's pretty awesome. That was a pretty good idea. It didn't work for him, but
Yeah.
right.
And
It's just a different movie. It just holds, they both deal in the same subject, but they're two totally different movies.
yeah, I think again, Predator 2 is my favorite, but I do appreciate the original for being what it is. Like one of the big Arnold movies, one of the big 80s movies, one of the big sci-fi action movies, and also giving us, one of our generation's iconic movie monsters, because with my mom's generation they had Dracula, they had Frankenstein, they had the Wolfman, basically all the monsters from the Monster Squad. Those were my mom's generation's monsters. Ours is the Terminator, the Predator, the Alien.
yeah, and what an epic way to take yourself out too in that first Predator movie. Like that scene's iconic with him mimicking the laugh and then like detonating, self-destructing himself. That's just
Yes,
Yeah.
it's hardcore.
and I there was a thought that I was gonna vocalize, but it just suddenly poofed away. But
Well,
I think the younger generation, they'll have their own monsters. I still need to see Megan, because I've heard
it's
nothing
so
but
much fun. It's
yeah,
it's worth it. I recommend.
yeah. So they'll have the new generation. They'll have their own movie monsters. I don't know how Nope is gonna stand the test of time, but that definitely has made me rethink my uh, it's like what we generally accept as alien abduction.
Nope was so good. That was
Oh yeah, it's so
so.
great, and I think it's going to play. I think it's going to play well. I think we'll see how his future films play out. But I think just like us, I think it's going to have kind of a resurgence of people being like, "This is actually pretty damn good." I mean, it's going
Yeah,
to be hard for him, just like it is for M. Night Shyamalan, to kind of get anyone to say something's better than their first movie. Well, which Sixth Sense wasn't Shyamalan's first movie, but his
yeah,
breakout movie. But the same thing with Get Out. It was such an iconic, thing in our culture when it came out and its statement. But
it was one of those movies that came out at just the right time.
Right.
mhm.
And also it had the added bonus of essentially Jordan Peele playing against type because up until then we knew Jordan Peele as a comic actor.
Yeah,
Like going from comedy to horror, like a lot of people think, oh, going from comedy to drama, that's kind of old hat. Like Tom Hanks did it, but going from comedy to horror, but not just horror that you can think about.
yeah,
Drama,
social
drama.
commentary.
Yeah, I honestly think he is the new heir apparent to Rod Sterling.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. It made sense why he was a producer on a new Twilight Zone.
Yeah, so I think we will we'll have say um, movie monsters will always be a thing, and as long as movies and stories exist.
Absolutely.
Well, I think they're both great, and they're yeah, like you guys were saying, they're iconic. They're even the second one. I'm going to go ahead and call it an iconic movie too.
Yeah,
I think it's starting to be more appreciated
Well, if
than it was.
nothing else, Predator 2 solidified that there will always be somewhere in the culture aliens versus Predator somewhere, like aliens and Predator stuff. Even if
yeah,
it's not in movies, it's in some other type of medium.
yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean that's the thing. It's been exercised in all these different kinds of media, probably except television, but
Well, we are getting an Alien TV series, but I don't know about what they're planning with Predator.
no,
Right.
they might do something since was Prey successful?
I mean, it's hard to tell since it was a streaming movie, right? Which is a shame. I think it would have done really well in theaters last year because it was
Yeah,
like an August release. And I'm going to say, if you're someone who hasn't seen a Predator movie since 1987 or 1990, you have to do yourself a favor. And even if you don't have Hulu, get a free trial and watch Prey. It is
yeah,
so good.
highly
Yeah.
recommended.
Also, any franchise that's having trouble, hire Dan Trachtenberg. Apparently, this is his thing. He comes in and makes a really good entry to a franchise. I mean, he directed 10 Cloverfield Lane as well. So,
Yeah.
Actually, I kind of like to see what the Lord and Miller team might do with something like that. They've had a pretty good track record too.
yeah, they have the coolest track record. You think this movie sounds stupid? Well, it's amazing, apparently, because they.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
guys,
yeah.
I've got to wrap it up.
Yeah, let's.
Yeah.
And thanks for coming on again this week, guys, like always, and talking two totally awesome movies.
Indeed. Yeah. I was gonna say probably time to wrap it up because I gotta be up at 5:45 in the morning to get to work
Yeah.
on time.
Ooh.
Well,
Yeah.
we'll go ahead and wrap it up so everybody can get some rest. There were two ideas that I had that I'm going to throw out there for a show at some point. Okay, these are show ideas. We don't have to do them next week. But I was going to say Mars Attacks, and it was Mars Attacks, and what was my other one?
I think you said Coneheads is what you shared in the
Yes.
chat.
Yes,
Yes.
oh yeah.
Yes.
I would definitely be down for talking about Coneheads.
Both for comedic, just comedic views on aliens.
And yeah, Coneheads was
Plus,
probably
they're
one
both
of
free
the
on Pluto TV.
other memorable Saturday Night Live movies, because we had Blues Brothers will probably always be the one remembered, with Wayne's
yeah.
World going in a close second. And
MacGruber has slowly become a cult classic.
yeah,
I need to
but
revisit
Coneheads is definitely a solid third placeholder.
Yeah, I thought it was like we watched Mars Attacks, and we watched Coneheads too. But I can't. Let's see. I think we watched Mars Attacks first, and I was like, this is pretty funny because I hadn't seen it in all ages. And I was like, what would go good with this is Coneheads, just because of they're both comedic takes on aliens.
Aliens Among Us.
But anyway, just an idea, something to think about at some maybe doing at some point. But guys, well, thanks for tagging along and carrying the show. I know you guys did most of the talking. I'm sorry. It's been a long one, but
it's definitely been a long week.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we'll go from there. And if we had any listeners or any future listeners, thank you. I have a feeling that after the apocalypse, people are just going to be rummaging around, like trying to find things to listen to, and we'll finally find our audience. So we just got to hang in there for a little bit longer, okay, guys?
So we'll become a cult classic.
Yes.
Well, they'll be like, man, I wish we would have tuned in these guys before the apocalypse. By then, it'll be too late. It's your fault.
Hopefully, they have a file drive somewhere of all the movies we've talked about, so they can watch them.
Yep.
Yeah. Here's hoping.
They'll have to listen to us like half-ass explain them and talk about
and then talk about other things that had nothing to do with the movie.
Yeah, exactly. Are you here? What happened next? And we're all talking about something else. All right, guys. Well, y'all have a good weekend. Tomorrow's Friday.
Yeah.
Hang in there.
Yes. Oh my God.
Yeah, hang in there, Nick. Hang in there, Cody. You're off tomorrow, Cody.
Yeah, today is my Friday.
So, Nick, hang in there, buddy. You got it.
Yeah.
You got a well-deserved weekend coming up.
Indeed. And then we gotta build a bookcase.
Fun.
We got a bookcase from IKEA.
Nice. Well, all right, guys. Well, I guess we will see y'all next week, and we'll decide what we want to talk about.
All right, sounds good.
Indeed.
Everybody have a good night, and thank you all for watching.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.